Thank you for coming today. I'm going to give a little introduction. So what we're hoping to learn today is computer security basics. What are the threats, protections, and best practices? I'm not going to emphasize that because there's 5,000 different things out there around that. But I do want to kind of go over it because different groups are, this training was designed for everybody. So if somebody's really rudimentary and they don't understand some of that, I want to make sure they get that in. But the more important thing I want to emphasize is about social engineering, how it works, how to protect yourself, and how to avoid being scammed, because that is what most people are dealing with today on the scheme of things. So that's what we're going to emphasize. Okay, so now I want to know about you. I want to know first how you use your technology. Do you connect with other people, bank and shop, go to movies, play games, what else you do? I also want you to share with us if you've experienced any kind of scamming. I don't need the details of the story yet. We'll get into it a little later. I just want to know if you've experienced like any email scamming or any phone call scamming. And I'll get us started with, I bank and shop, and I also watch movies, I play games. I use my computer almost all, between my phones, my tablets, and my computer, I use it ubiquitously. I also have a smart TV, so that's another way that I'm using the internet. And I have experienced email scams, and I have experienced phone call scams. And again, details we'll go into later. I question everything, and we'll talk about that. But I'm gonna go back a slide here since people joined us after we did this. Just real quickly, the thing I really, we'll go over some computer security basics real quick. The group seems fairly well conversant in that, so I'm not going to belabor it. We only have an hour, so I don't want to waste a lot of time. What I really want to focus on is social engineering, because that's the area that 80% of the people get caught in. We're all, here, well, I'll just move on. Here, hang on, let's go. Okay, real life experiences. I've heard that, we all get scammer calls. We've had fake emails. Urgent text messages are really rampant right now. I got a text message saying that, did you authorize this thing? And I thought, oh my God, I didn't. And then I looked at it a little more closely, and it wasn't from my bank account. It wasn't from, and I consider myself savvy, that I really understand this stuff. And if I can get that, oh my God response, that means that somebody who's less savvy about the scams are going to, be even more vulnerable. And so what we want to talk about today is how to avoid things that the vulnerabilities that people or scammers try to exploit. Because the truth is, that's how they get us, is by vulnerabilities. It's how phishing works. It's how all these things work, is by them eliciting something, fake profiles and so forth. So let's quickly review computer security. Like I said, I don't want to belabor this. What are the threats? What you can do about threats? How to protect yourself? The ideas here are: there's data you want to protect. Be very conscious of your financial records. This includes your social security numbers, your bank account, and credit card numbers, the details around that, personal identifiers, date of births and addresses. Now, these are all things people really want to know, are aware of. But are you aware that they want to know your mother's maiden name? Are you aware that they want to know your children's names and date of births and your pets' names, or the first street you grew up on? And the reason they ask, so if you have these people go and fill out, like from Facebook and stuff, surveys. Oh, this is just so we can find and learn and meet and grow and understand each other. But it's really scammers fishing for your content. So I'm going to quickly play just the beginning of a TED Talk. It's 16 minutes long, so I'm not going to waste our time with the whole thing. But I really like the first 1 minute or 2 minutes of this presentation, because he says something that when I listen to it, oh yeah. So if you can be patient with me and just listen to this for a minute. And I assume you can all hear this?
According to social media, every one of us has a porn star name. If you don't know what yours is, you need to take your the name of your first pet and the name of the road that you lived in when you were a child. Just take a moment, turn to the person next to you and introduce your porn star self. Okay. It's amusing, isn't it? Can I have you back? Can I have your attention back, please? So I'm Smoky Pound. And as you can see, it's amusing. And this is why, when you see this on Facebook or whatever, so many people engage with it. There's lots of different variants. There was one during the elections, it was find out what your Tory MP name is. And they use variants like, what's your mother's maiden name? What school did you go to? And the thing is, what I've just asked you to do is turn to a stranger and share with them information that you will use for your password retrieval for things like your online banking. And we're being tricked like this all the time. And I want
Okay, so that's where I'm going to pause because I don't want to, like I said, this is a 60-minute
to talk
video.
to you about.
Yeah. What I'm trying to emphasize is he talks about the fact that there's these little things that look like they're harmless and they're fun and they're funny, and they're actually phishing for your information. These are the kind of things that are out there. Yeah, we get those emails, we get those calls, and we go, yeah, no, forget it, right? But those are the ones that the things that are less obvious and seem harmless are not. So let's start with the basics. There are malware, phishing, cloud, Wi-Fi, and app. Is there any of these terms that anybody on this call does not understand? And raise your hand if that's the case, and then tell me which one it is, and we'll explain it. But if you all know what those things are, I'm going to move on. Anybody have any need for explanation? I didn't think so. Just based upon how you introduced yourself, I figured that was the case. Okay, so steps you need to protect yourself. What you need to do today is, make sure you have safe passwords. That means more robust, the better. Multi-factor verification, like Francisco was saying, is a good thing to do. Again, you have to be careful because if you're using your phone and they clone your phone for some reason, because usually they don't do that for people, everyday people, but if you were like really wealthy or well known, people are going to try to clone your phone and steal stuff from you. You got to also be aware of that. Security questions are great until you go and do one of those online applications about your street address and your mother's maiden name and your first pet, right? So be aware when you're answering those security questions. Nowadays, a lot of sites let you create your own question, so it's not something that's already canned and everybody's expecting to see. Incognito windows are great. Like if you have to go somewhere and use your computer or a local computer, like at a library, the incognito windows are a little safer. The other thing I want to really emphasize is password vaults. We're going to have a whole tab on that, but the password vaults are really a great way to do it. Francisco mentioned using Google. I use LastPass. There's a bunch of them, and I will go over that in a little more detail in a couple slides. If you need help doing the other things like antivirus, firewalls, does everybody know that they can black and white list emails and or URLs? Okay, I'm seeing some head shaking. Spam filters. If you have an email account, make sure those are turned on. I use Google for my email these days, and they have a really great spam filter, and I'm the administrator of the account, so I can actually go and chase down and lock things up. Okay, so blacklist and whitelist. on your computer itself, as well as on your email. There is a capability of what they call blacklist. Means you would that's somebody who you won't allow in. You can, the best way to do it is you can capture an email address from the email that comes in, or if it's a URL link, you can find those in the, and we're going to kind of look at a couple of emails so I can show you where those are in a minute here. You can then go in, and then I always find blocking the entire URL is more efficient than just blocking one email address, particularly if it has a funky looking URL. One of the things that scammers like to do is, so like my company name is Chapara LLC, and I use chapara-llc.com, but they might send you an email from Chapara period, CHIP period ARA-LLC to clone, make it look like me, because people don't often notice the periods or the little dots and stuff. So again, these are things that I don't want to take up too much time to how to do that. But if you're not feel like you're not computer savvy enough to know where a blacklist or a whitelist is, they're built. Windows has them built in. I'm pretty sure my Macs do too. And I know every email account, there's a way to do that. I just don't have a pathway. There's a pathway to find it on your computer. So if you go to settings under security and privacy, there's probably in there, and Windows devices. And again, there's a way to get to it on your email provider. And when I go to open email, I'll kind of show you where that might be. Malware protection. Antivirus is the same as malware. There's some subtle differences. Viruses are to infect your computer. Malware is just kind of mostly aggravating. You want to keep your antivirus updated, get it and keep it updated. Now, I don't know if most people are aware of this. If you have a Windows machine, it comes with Windows Defender and Windows Firewall. So you don't necessarily have, it's gotten to the point where you don't necessarily have to buy something separate. I find that protects me most of the time. And then again, I use Google, not because I'm not trying to promote any one provider, but I use Google for my email because they already put in place a lot of protections for me, and I don't have to think about it. I don't have to be an administrator. If you're running a company, you got to have cybersecurity people on your group, on your payroll. They're really important these days. Other things you want to do is keep things updated. Operating systems, they're always finding vulnerabilities, and they're always sending out patches. Make sure those are installed. Continuously upgrade your browsers. They're always being upgraded for the same reason, vulnerabilities and patches. Software is the same. Antivirus is the same. The important for antivirus is just making sure your definitions are kept up to date. Again, I use Windows Defender, and I let that be automated. I do discourage most people from manually updating those things because you tend not to do it. I let it ask me to do it, and then I let it do it on its own. But you can just automate it, and those are great ways to keep things updated. They do make your computer a little more sluggish, but I strongly recommend that. Sophia, one of the things you can do is you can back up all your files and actually reboot your computer back to the origin. If you don't have a lot of loaded software on your system, that's one of the ways I have gotten around these kind of problems, is to really revert. There's a way when you're working with your computer, and you can go to some place to help you with this, is you can revert back to your original system and start again. That usually wipes out a lot of nasty things like what you're talking about. People don't realize that you can do that. Most people don't want to do that because, oh my God, I have to reinstall this software, and oh my God, I'll lose all my files. I stopped keeping any files on my local computer. I have everything up in the cloud, and then on a removable drive. I back it up twice, once in both places. I do it. The cloud stuff is all automated, happens daily. The remote backup is done about once a month. I just go in just to have a second copy in case something happened. The cloud is pretty secure, but you never know. Okay. Any questions on that? I used to be of the ilk of, oh, you have to have a mirror image of your computer. In fact, I recently bought one because I was getting nervous about a lot of the crap that was going on out there. And it didn't work on my computer. And it was such a hassle that it never, even when I did have I actually had a failure and I tried to use it to restart my computer, didn't work. So unless you got a really good system and you know really what you're doing, and I know what I'm doing, I couldn't get the darn thing to work. So what I recommend is retain. So most people don't know this, but you can take your exe file that installed your software and plug it up on the cloud and let it sit there. And I save all my files. And you can do it a couple different ways. Again, I'm not as familiar with Mac, and I know that they're a little more secure because people they're not being broken into with regularity of PCs are. So what I recommend is make sure your files are backed up, and you can automate that. You can automate it to the cloud, or you can automate it to an external drive. And again, we don't have the time today to actually show you how to do that. If you need further help from me, you can reach out to me. If you need further help, there's other there's a lot of people out there doing this kind of work that will help you. And I encourage you, a few dollars you spend for that kind of help to get things set up, but do make sure it's somebody you know and trust. Don't go to some, little dark corner, hole in the wall place. Go to, go to people like that are big companies. Go to Microsoft directly, go to Mac directly. They all have stores and they will all help you. They'll charge you a fee, but it's a fee well worth spent if it protects you. Because if once they lock up your computer and you lose all your files, then they want money from you to get back. If somebody, knock on wood, if somebody tried to lock up my computer and demand money from me, ransom, couldn't get that word out, ransom for me, I would just restart my computer like I was describing, because all my files are secure. All my photos, all my stuff, it's all secure. So I don't feel threatened. I know how to get out of that without having to lose anything. So it's best to make sure that you have things protected. And I use a combination of cloud and external hard drives. And I have some of it automated and I have some of it I do manually. People want to do mirrors of their computers when they have 50,000 different pieces of software on it and they don't have to reinstall it every time. Computer, I have to do it anyway, so I know how to do it. So for me, it's like you just do it. And I don't keep a lot of it. And again, the trend these days are to have a lot of cloud-based computing as well. So you don't, if you're not really savvy and don't set up your computer, do cloud. It's a little more expensive, but you always have the best and brightest at any given moment. And if you don't use a lot of software, I would encourage it. I do that for certain things, and I keep installed software for other things. It's just it's a mix of personal pleasure and costs, right? Things I really use a lot, I usually have on my desktop. Things I don't use very often, I'll rent, right? Okay, passwords. This is the most important thing I'm going to say today is passwords. Make sure they're strong. Make sure they have they're longer is stronger, right? Don't just have a 3-letter or 4-letter number, unless that's something the website makes you do. There's people who use pins. Combination of upper and lower, special characters are really great. I personally have started using what I call passphrases. So what you see on the I guess that's the right-hand side of the screen, if that's the way it's looking, is try a passphrase. So like safe from scams, and then you would write, I am safe from scams, I am safe from all scams, and then you start throwing in characters and numbers, like so safe, instead of an E, I threw in a 3. And throw exclamation points in. Sometimes an I becomes an exclamation point or a number 1. And then that's easy for me to remember. But for me, the real way I do it is I use a password vault. So passwords on computers and mobile devices to lock your screen, make sure you do that. Particularly if your computer's in your house and you don't ever have anybody come in, you don't need to do it necessarily unless you're taking your travel with your computer. Then you definitely have to make sure so you can deactivate lock screens on your computer when you're at home, but reactivate it when you're out and about. Make sure you have it on your mobile devices, particularly today where you can use your fingerprint or your eye retina or your face scan. That makes it a little more secure. Don't use the same password over and over and over and over again, because that's how they get you. I can't tell you how many times I used to use, and I can tell you this because I don't use it anywhere anymore. I used to use Maui for me. And then one day my sister gave me a little license plate that said Maui for me on it. I thought, oh my God. My password is like a license plate, the fake license plate from Hawaii. And I was like, so I started, but it was everywhere, that because I only wanted to remember one password, and that's what most of us do. But these days you can't do that. Don't use your date of birth. Don't use your pet's name. Don't use anything else like, your wedding date or your a wedding anniversary. Don't use common things. Nice thing about a password. Because here's the caution I'm going to do. If you don't get a vault, and they're really inexpensive, Google Chrome will do it for you for free, right? But I know how to break into. I actually had to do this. I was working for a company, and the woman couldn't remember her password, so I went into Google, went into the password save place, and brought up her password. So somebody can get into your computer when, in that case, they can see all your passwords.
Scary.
But what a vault does, and there's free versions of all this stuff, by the way. I do the paid version because it's so little money and it gives me a lot more power and control. You usually have to only remember one password, and then the vault remembers everything else for you. And now with I can put this same software on my phones. I can use my finger to open it or my eyes to open it. I don't even have to remember it. In fact, I have to go, oh my God, I've been using my fingers so much, I forgot my master password. So I actually kind of store it somewhere. So the danger is what most people do is I have to have lots of passwords. What they start doing is they start doing this. Everyone know what that is? That's a sticky note. So like stash underneath their thing. And I think that's secure if it's underneath something, right? It's not. In fact, I know I've seen videos of people when, the first thing we do is go to the computer and look underneath their Mac and see where all the passwords are. And I mean, I've seen people they have them in drawers. Some people just are real blatant. They just stick it right there on their screen. In fact, the woman who lost her password, she used to have all these little stick-it notes on the bottom of her screen, all her passwords. And I'm like, why do you even bother? Don't even bother having passwords. Well, I have to have them. They make me. I'm like, okay, right? So, and if you have a family, this is also really good for sharing. So, like if you get a family plan, you and your wife and your children can share. And this actually comes into kind of I'm sorry, I'm going to say something that's kind of creepy, but I actually set up in I use LastPass, as I was saying. It's just one I'm not saying it's better than the others. I'm just saying it's one I fell into and I like it and it works really well. So I'm happy with it. I actually set up in my LastPass a place for a message to my sister, who is my only living relative right now, and gave her my master password secretly in some place, right? So that if she needed to, could go into my vault and start shutting down accounts. So that's the other beauty of a vault, is it kind of gives you something you can hand off to your heirs. You could even just put it in your will somewhere, privately, right? The other thing is, if I have to share a password with somebody, because I don't know about you, but that seems to come up. If you're not going to share it through the vault because they don't have the vault, I usually will send the username on an email and then text the password. Text is a little more secure. People have to be right there watching you. Email, do not send anything on email. Don't send social security numbers, don't send account numbers, because email is like sending a postcard. Would you put your bank account name, number, and password on a postcard and put it in the mail? No, that's what email is. Email is a postcard, so don't use email. A couple of the ones I found, LastPass, 1Password and Bitwarden are the ones that CNET recommended. And I have a link for CNET recommendations on password vaults so that you guys can all take a look at that later. Okay, so open Wi-Fi warnings. Remember, if you're at safe Starbucks or someplace having coffee and you're on their open Wi-Fi, connect with caution. Do not auto connect. Avoid banking. Don't avoid checking your emails even. Avoid making purchases. Anything that would use a credit card. I was sitting in I was in a cyber summary once, and I was all proud of myself because I knew how to set up my Wi-Fi. This was even in my own house. Oh, this is so great. And they went, I said, so did I do it right? They go, yeah, but they can get it. There's tools now on the dark web that they could drive up to your, your house and monitor your traffic until they see your password. So it doesn't really matter. So you have to be careful. And on open networks, like if you're out there at Starbucks or something like that, it's even more. They're at every Starbucks, particularly big ones that have a lot of traffic at them. There's somebody, I can guarantee you, there's probably a scammer sitting there monitoring traffic. So don't do anything when you're there. I would be careful. I don't do a lot. Again, I never do any shopping or banking while I'm at a hotel. I do check my emails. And I do some web searches because, sometimes you have to do that for work. Other online activities, be sure you're on the real site. I don't know if you know this today. They can, like I said, like where it says www.yourbank.com. So they could put like a period in your bank and because it's really easy to go get logos and make it look like the site. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop up again. I'm going to pop up my email account here for a second. I'm going to show you guys something. So, that's my LastPass. You don't want to see that. Hang on a minute. No. There's not anything you can see in there anyway. Here's my email. Okay, so if I went to, let's see if I can find something that's, okay. Shoes, right? I like shoes, a bit of a fetish. Okay, I'll admit it. So what I want you guys to see is while I'm on this website, first of all, the first thing you want to do is you want to look at, if you look at go to me and you look at the details of who this is from, right? You can actually see this and you can see something that looks legitimate, that's email at ddusw.com. That looks kind of legitimate, right? But I have literally seen emails come in from people when I've gotten spam. In fact, maybe I'll go look and see if I can find one. Where if you highlight over there who it came from, it's obvious that it didn't come from somebody legitimate. The other thing I want to point out is a lot of these things are hyperlinked, right? So like. And I know it's a little small, but can you see down the blue line at the very bottom of my screen? Do you see at the very beginning, it says em.dsw.com and then a whole bunch of garbage because it's going to a specific location within that system. It's a search that already happened. But that first part of the address is legitimate. So I'm going to see if I can actually, I usually clear out my spam pretty frequently because it gives me, oh, I have 22. Thank you, Google. So, well, like this one, this was, oh, I bet you this is a bad one because it ended up in spam. But they're sending me an annual reminder. And it says it's legitimate. Let's see if it really is. Is this really from Hawaii? Is this really my reminder? Because if it is, it shouldn't be in spam. So if I go to my business, and it does say hbe.ehawaii, that is actually a good site. So this is not spam. So that's not spam. So I can take it out. I'm getting a Moderna email, which is probably, I'm just trying to see if there's anything. So like this one, they wanted to send me a JOT form, which I wouldn't fill out if they paid me $1 million to do, right? So again, you can see what I really want to show you is that when you go highlight over it, you can see that down in the blue bar at the bottom of your screen, the actual address. And if you look at that and you look at it carefully, you'll tell, you can see the fake stuff. Yeah, if you go to settings and there's places for you to do that.
Okay.
Well, you can block them. So the other,
Okay.
again, most sites will let you block them. So you see where you can go and check on the address that looks legitimate, check the links. And what I do is if something looks suspicious, I hover over it and use my little blue bar at the bottom to see if it's got any kind of funky naming going on. By the way, I just got a Social Security email. That was really funny. It said, Social Security will never call you. They will never yell at you. They will never threaten you. So be aware. Banks don't call you. The IRS, I got a call from the IRS. And it said, and it happened to be a year that I screwed up my account and I had to ask for the ability to pay my taxes over a time period, right? So I had negotiated a payment plan with them. So I get this call and they say, this is the IRS and you haven't made your payments and we're gonna we're gonna freeze all your accounts. And I was like, oh my God, right? Because again, they were phishing and they caught me, right? For a brief second. I called the number and thank goodness it said, we are reaching out to your Google number. So whoever set up their Google phone number screwed up, because as soon as I heard that, I knew it was fake. So I reported it, but obviously the IRS doesn't use a Google phone number, right? So look for inconsistencies. But again, that's how they get you when they're phishing, is because you, like, for example, I was for fun, I was entering the Publishers Clearinghouse when I was living on Maui, and I got a call that I won. I was like so flabbergasted. I was like, oh my God. And then he said, well, in order to get your $2 million, because it's what they told me I won $2 million. You have to go down and get gift cards for us. And as soon as I said gift cards, I went, what? First of all, PCH does not call you. They just show up at your door with a big check. But I didn't know. I didn't really put two and two together. But I got the call. I realized as soon as they started asking for gift cards and money that there's fraud going on. Okay. All right. Sorry, I'm trying to get through some of this. Okay, awareness was key to avoiding scams, and that's what we were starting to talk about. Who is the email from? Right? Check if it looks suspicious, so they're asking you for anything that people shouldn't be asking for. Start looking into their addresses and the URLs. Does the content look wrong? Is there misspelled words? Does it obviously not spun it from an English speaking person, right? Don't open any attachments. Even if it's a contact, because what they can do is they can spoof other people's email address. I got an email from my sister once and it wasn't really from her. It said, hey, take a look at this cool photo I took. And that's all it said, right? Which is suspicious enough because my sister wouldn't do that. And most of your friends won't do that, right? And I was like, I called her, I go, did you just send? No, I didn't send you anything. Okay, delete, you know? We showed you how to look at whether links are real. Same with who's calling you. These days, like my T-Mobile company, again, I'm not trying to emphasize any one company, but most of them do this, is I get a little alert now that says possible scam. And so like Francisco, I just if that comes up, I let it go to voicemail, because occasionally that possible scam is actually a real person, and real people will leave you a voicemail. Now, I also had somebody leave me a voicemail who was a bad guy. And so what I did is I kept them on the phone as long as I could, because it messes with them, because they don't want to be on with you. They want you to give them money, right? So if you keep them on the phone, they're not calling some little old lady and getting money out of her, right? And be aware, if somebody's trying to manipulate you emotionally, this is probably not somebody who's got your best interests in mind, okay? So here's the most common scams. I'm moving on into social engineering, by the way, if you didn't realize that. Fake emergencies, fake false promises, fabricated prizes, bogus investment plans, deceptive money offers, overpayment checks, wire transfer error, phony lotteries. The whole inspiration behind this class was because I had just been, somebody had just tried to scam me. I was trying to sell a large piece of furniture when I was in Hawaii before I had moved here. It was too big to move from Hawaii to California. So I tried to sell it and I put it on this site that somebody recommended to me. And I get this text, oh, I really want it, you know, but they never talked to me. They only ever texted me. They never called me. We never talked on the phone, which made me suspicious to start out with. And then they weren't in Hawaii. They were out of town, but they would have somebody come pick it up. So then I get this text that, oh, and so I said, okay, if you want to do it that way, only send me what the amount is. Don't send me any extra money. So, because that's an alert. So I said, so she said, the text said, okay. And then so I get this message 2 days later. Okay, the bank card, the cashier's check is in the mail. And we added $100 for the movers and $50 for you for your help. I said, no, go away. You're fraud. I canceled it because that's what they were doing. Right after that happened to me, I got a call from my friend. Her mother-in-law got a call from somebody who said, oh my God, I'm so sorry. We accidentally wired $40,000 to your account. Can you please wire it back to us? So she went and wired it back. Only to find out that the original wire was fake. And before her son-in-law, who actually happened to be a police officer in Walnut Creek, why she didn't check with him first is beyond me, but you know, she was a nice person. So they called her and said, oh my God, your wire didn't come through and we desperately need this money. Please, please go get, she was on her way out the door to buy $40,000 in gift cards to send to them. So they almost got $80,000 out of her because people aren't talking about this because they get embarrassed that they get scammed, right? So that's why I wanted this class, is because I don't want us to be embarrassed. I want us to just not be scammed. So if you don't take anything else away from this class, check the addresses. And if anybody asks you for gift cards or money, it's a scam. Unless it's like, you know, somebody you absolutely certainly know. And even then, like, you know, I can't, your friends aren't going to call you and ask you for $40,000, right? but they're phishing. So they're looking for you. They'll go, oh my God, your grandson. And if you say, I don't have any grandson, hang up, right? They go, okay, we'll try the next one. Somebody's going to have a grandson. Your grandson's in jail is one of the things that they do, right? Okay, let's talk about the scams. And then I want to quickly go around the room. Computer cold calling. Your computer has a virus, I'm going to help you. So let me log on to your computer, right? If somebody calls you, I mean, I had somebody who literally took an email and thought she was calling Apple, and they stole all her data after, but from an email. And she thought she was calling Apple. That was her annual review from Apple to get her computer cleaned out. No, it wasn't. It went to the wrong place. So don't take calls, don't take emails, don't let anybody on your computer unless so I got a letter from the state of Hawaii. It looked like the state of Hawaii, but they were asking me for my banking information. I didn't call the number on the paper. I go and found the company, the department at the Hawaii, and I said, can you tell me who's doing this project? They put me through to him. He goes, no, it's legit, do it. But I call a number I find on the web that I know is legitimate before I would ever respond to any phone calls or a letter telling me to call somebody, okay? I think we're all aware what ransomware is. So you click on something and then they lock up your computer. So there's ways around it by backing yourself up, and then you can just kind of thumb your nose at them. Sorry, not to be crass, right? But that's the way you protect yourself from ransomware. First, you don't click on things you shouldn't click on, but you know, we all screw up occasionally. Advanced fee scam. convinces you that in return for sending money in order to help someone, you'll receive even more money eventually. Or a stranded traveler scam. These are all things, again, they're trying to manipulate you. If it sounds too good to be true or something meant to scare you, it probably is a scam. Now, if you fall victim to one of these scams, don't beat yourself up. Just collect your thoughts, remain calm, change your passwords as soon as possible. If you've given out past usernames or passwords, make a list of all information that was stolen, track all communications, right? Like I track communications if they come in text or phone or email. Obtain a copy of your credit report and review it to see if anything funky is going on. Notify, I have all my credit card companies are locked. I keep them locked just for safety reasons. And when it's a pain in the butt when I have to go and buy something, like I was buying a car, I had to go unlock all my credit companies and then relock them again. But it's just what you have to do. You can put freezes or locks on your account. If you go to the 3 credit, and it's all free, they can't charge you for this. They try to and again, they're, everybody has their spiel, right? They try to make it look like you have to have the special account with them. You have to pay a fee or a subscription in order to be able to do that. But this is one of the things that federally they're required to allow you to lock and unlock your account. Which that means what that does is, or freeze or unfreeze your account. They use different terms, but it's either locking or freezing. And all that does is prevent anybody from setting up an account on your Social Security number that's associated with that credit account. You want to notify your credit card companies and financial institutions and contact your local law enforcement. They usually have these days, they all have a cyber department. So, okay, phishing is the most common thing people do. They do it on the email, they do it on the phone. I've even had people phish for stuff in face-to-face stuff. So be careful. That's why I mean, like, don't go take your computer to somebody, a little black hole in the wall place, even if it looks really cheap. Oh, it cost me only $10 to do it there, and it costs $200 at Mac. You might end up regretting that difference in cost. And I'm not saying that they're all. I'm just saying, just be aware. Unless you know for sure that that place is legit, be careful. It's a malicious attempt to acquire sensitive information. So they dangle something in front of you, whether it's a prize or something to be fearful about, or like, my IRS, like, oh my God, the IRS is coming after me, right? I get the Social Security number call all the time. I get the, your car warranty is about to expire. I don't even have a car warranty. How could but if somebody had a car warranty and they like to have a car warranty, they might go, oh my God. And then they give out their credit card number and their CVV. And then next thing you know, their credit card's getting piled up with stuff. So, and I use credit cards now for everything. I don't use debit cards I know that it's supposed to be safe, but the difference between a credit card that gets stolen and a debit card that gets stolen, credit cards, you're only usually liable for like $50, if that. If they wipe out your debit card and they wipe out your account, you don't get any of that money back. There's no protection from a debit card, and banks won't tell you this because the liability on a credit card's on them. On a debit card, it's on you. So I don't use debit cards. So be aware of that. So stay alert, stay active, ask questions. What I want to do is go around the room and talk about things you've experienced and how we might be able to share with each other our experiences.
I personally don't think I have actually spoken to a scammer or responded to an email, but I get a lot of them.
So you've never actually had to wager. That's great. That means you're.
But I think
savvy,
I'm like Francisco, right? Where I never answer my phone if someone's calling. And then they'll leave a voicemail, and I have an iPhone, so it'll transcribe the message, right? And then it says, if it mentions extended car warranty or anything like that, I'm like, okay, block.
That's a
And then
good point.
Email, I just
wanna-
have 10,000 unread emails in my inbox. That's probably why.
But what I want to recommend is sometimes it's really good to listen to take the call, because you can, if it doesn't come through as scam likely, and they come in through scam likely because somebody else listened to the call and then they marked it as a scam on their phone, and then that alerts the, that phone might be funky. So I recommend either listening or doing what Kristen did, is like look for the, the message, and then go, okay, this one's fraud, and then mark it on your phone, because there's a place on your text messages and or your calls where you can block the number and mark it as scam, report it as scam, and then that helps the rest of us on that phone number. So, okay.
Wish it was that easy to get a hold of Amazon.
Yeah. Yeah.
Go through that, a bunch of stuff.
Right.
And at the very end, you don't call them, you ask them to call you.
Yeah. Yeah.
So unless you ask them to call you, it's probably not.
No, they're not. They're not.
I always err on the side of caution, trying to manipulate you emotionally.
Yeah.
The IRS, by the way, I'll tell you all, the IRS sends letters. They send letters. They do not call you on the phone. They don't have the time. They don't have the personnel. They do not call you. They send letters. They may sound threatening, and sometimes they are, but they send letters, period.
Okay.
And like I said, I mean, literally, I just got, and I saved this, I just got an email from Social Security that said, we do not call and threaten you. Right? So I thought that was delightful. Password protected these days, right?
Yeah.
So it was the only way I could do it and not use the same one everywhere. So I know people who that's what they just do. They just redo their passwords every time. So my caution is always know who you're dealing with. And any place that you can put your name in a password or something to protect things. And some of them are, just people trying to do business, but kind of on the edge is what I consider. I would get a letter. So to renew my business account, like that email I showed you, to renew my business account in Hawaii, it costs $13.50. I have to fill it out once a year. I just do it. I got a letter like 3 months before it was due. It's due in March for me, because that's when I set my company up there. So I got a letter in like September. You're going to get fined if you do not do your annual paperwork on time. We'll do it for you for $175. Now I'm savvy again, so I'm like, yeah, I do it for $13.50. Thanks, but no thanks, and shred it, right? But like after the fourth time I got one of those letters, I actually called the people in Hawaii and said, are you aware of this? They go, yeah, and there's nothing we can do because it's legitimate. They actually do the work for somebody, but they don't tell you it only costs $13.50 and they charge you $175 to do a 5-minute thing, right? So that's the stuff that drives me crazy. Suggestion is do your research, like you see on the screen, verify, verify, verify. Always double check. The scammers always seem to say it's one step ahead of the rest of us, right? And I think that's why awareness is so important, that we need to think about who's on the other end of that phone or who's on the other end of that email. And really, is this for my convenience? Or does it open the door to something? So like the Zelle thing opens the door to something. I strongly encourage, if you get an email asking you for money or credentials or whatever, don't call the number on the email.
Yeah.
Go to Wells Fargo. Go
Yeah.
to their legitimate website. We all know where they are, right? And then call the customer service there and ask them. Yeah, so check, verify, verify, verify. And these links are all in when I send the slides, these links will be in there. So you can The cyber safety links are from Hawaii. There's a bunch of good stuff in there. Center for Cyber Safety and Security and Education has a lot of good information. The link to report a crime in Hawaii, California, that's really good. That's one's for cybercrime. And then the CNET for give you other password managers besides the ones that I use and we have. So, and Snopes is a really great Mythbuster site. I've been using it for years.